All right, this is an excellent segue, Leon. But the problem is, unfortunately, we are short for time. So forgive me for rushing you with this, but I think in the forward and in the introduction itself, you basically claim, of course, as you highlighted, the kind of the subjective structures that Freud and Lacan identified was neurosis, perversion, and psychosis. And then in the book, you posit that autism, you say, is not a pathology, but a mode of being. So again, I know we're short for time, but if you could sort of maybe give us a prelude, because obviously to get an understanding of that, you got to read the book, but a very elementary prelude as to what you mean by, firstly, a mode of being, and then why you claim that uh, autism is a another mode of being on top of the ones identified by Freud and Lacan.
Mhm. Mhm. So first, let me say, Rahul, that I don't know, you can see if your listeners are interested in our talk or you yourself, and we can schedule another meeting if you want to continue.
I'd be
Yeah,
very grateful. Yes.
you
I
can
because
let me know.
I want to ask you about foreclosure, and particularly where you highlight the difference between a psychotic foreclosure and autistic foreclosure. And I don't think we'll have time today for that. So maybe this could be just an introduction, and I'd be
Yeah,
very if you could reschedule another talk, another conversation.
sure, sure. So that's I put this on the table so we won't be too stressed for
Yeah.
time. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, I give this this idea of a mode of being, borrowing this from the phenomenologists, of course, this kind of term, but I use it a bit differently in the book. And this is the idea that one's particular use of language in order to compensate for this the inherent schism, between the inner world and the humanized world, um, is for me a mode of being. It is a mode of existence because we find our existence in language, as you were saying and you were quoting from the book. One does not only find their meaning, let's say, in this kind of Sartrean way, you know, existence prior to meaning, that you are born and then you find who you are or whatever your goals or aims are at your life. We see with you is this excerpt that you brought is that one is born already endowed with meaning, already determined by language. And we say it's a name, it's these projections that the parents might have on a baby even before it is born. Today we have this sonogram and these images of the baby in the womb. People already start having their fantasies about even their face structure. We know if they're a boy or a girl. One has already meanings that are stuck to them before they're born. Um, and so we say one becomes human, one subjectifies, one is situated in the humanized world through their use of language, through their relationship with this language that is alien, that is outside of them, that exists prior and will exist after. Now, this particular use of language is a mode of existence because it situates us in the world, in the social world, in our body, in relationship with other people in the world, in relationship with our own ego. So language is the mode through which one becomes. And then neurosis is one of these modes. And I argue that psychosis and perversion are also these modes. But my point is, and this is where I think maybe this mode of being steps away from the Heideggerian Dasein, you know, this mode of being that Heidegger speaks about, is that, I'll be a little blunt, for me, everyone is developmentally disordered. they say that autism is a developmental disorder. This is how it's determined. But if you follow Freud, everyone is necessarily developmentally disordered. Um, Freud speaks about the fixation of the drives. So the drives are these things that sort of determine our pleasure and suffering. And he says that at a certain point in one's life, they're fixated and they stop developing. He uses these words. They are stopped in the middle of their development, and then they continue in the same way, which is not a proper way. It is just a way that keeps on functioning. So everyone is, in a sense, developmentally disordered. We are born split with this inherent schism that is unmendable. We use language to compensate for it. And as we do, something in the development of our, let's say, of the drives of these things that move us, that color the world, that make the world basically objects exist in the world when they are invested with libido. They don't exist when they are not invested. So basically, this means that the world stops developing in this sense. So everyone, the neurotic, the psychotic, the perverse, and the autistic are all developmentally disordered. And this is why each of these perspectives are, let's say, a mode of being. They're an attitude in relation to reality. They're a way to do with language. When I say then that they are distinct, then I don't make here some kind of an ontological argument. And this is something it's important to clarify. I don't mean that here's Woody Allen, he's neurotic. Here's Daniel Schreber from Freud's case, he's psychotic. And here's, I don't know, Temple Grandin, she's autistic. I mean that there are different ways to do with language, and these necessitate our attention as analysts. And it means that working with this particular subject that has this particular way of doing with language will dictate situating myself in the transference in such and such a way and making such and such interventions. And with the psychotic subject, that will not be the case. Because if I will position myself in the same way, that could be catastrophic. For instance, this is something, again, it's not a real example, it's just to clarify my point. So with a neurotic, it's important not to answer one's demands for love many times. And this also means that you sometimes go on vacation and you don't really say, look, I'm sorry, but I have to go and continue. You say, I'm going. We see each other in 2 weeks. Well, let's set a date. Good. Okay. With the psychotic subject, you will not do that because there is a risk for, let's say, a paranoid thoughts. Where is he going? Is he staying home? Will he be here? Is he seeing other people? Is he actually going to follow me and not tell me? So, with the psychotic, I would say, I'm going for 2 weeks. I will be here. This is my email. You can contact me. I'll be available between these and these hours. I'll come back on Tuesday and we meet immediately on Wednesday. And you can write to me if there's a problem and we can reschedule, etc. So you see that there's a different way one engages with even the logistical level of handling an analysis. So this manifests itself on all the other levels. So what I'm saying when I'm saying that autism is a distinct mode of being is I'm saying that one needs to handle an analysis under the hypothesis of autism in a way that is different than the one that we would do, different than we would do in when there is a hypothesis of psychosis, perversion, and neurosis.